Welcome to this week's episode of the Modern Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Cooke. Today, I'll be sharing some of my favorite tips and tricks for using LinkedIn to really bump up your Rockstar status at work. If you're anxious about your job security, if you're wondering how to be amazing while everything remains virtual, this one is a can't miss for you. Many people use LinkedIn as nothing more than an online Rolodex, a means of finding a job, or a quick daily glance through professional updates and eye-roll-inducing humble brags. But when you look for the tips and tricks hidden away in its many nooks and corners, you can do some pretty amazing things on LinkedIn's virtual platform. With so much uncertainty persisting today, we're all looking for ways to go above and beyond just getting our projects done on time. It's more important than ever to really shine at work. Today we'll talk about some strategies you can use on LinkedIn, all from the comfort of your probably still virtual office, to stand out. With LinkedIn, you can be the bringer of industry trends and insights. You can introduce new practices to your team, deliver more creative and fleshed out ideas, and be a great brand ambassador for your company. Let's dive in. Let's start with spotting insights and trends. Raise your hand if your primary engagement with LinkedIn is a periodic check of whatever comes up in your organic feed. Don't worry, I can't see you. Go ahead and raise that hand. This is the default behavior on LinkedIn. It means you're seeing whatever has been posted by your connections, those in your network. What do you typically find there? Usually a combination of job updates and shared articles, maybe sprinkled with a few bits of promoted content. Spending 5 to 10 minutes seeing what's happening in your network can be interesting and relevant. But if you really understand the power of LinkedIn, you can use those same 5 to 10 minutes to spot industry-shifting trends and insights from leading thinkers and institutions. Insights you can bring to your team to shift or challenge thinking. Next time you're on the platform, pull yourself away from the not-so-riveting feed and focus instead on curating the content you see. Choose people, thinkers, and business leaders, or institutions or hashtags you'd like to follow. I may not have access to people like Brené Brown, Dan Pink, or Adam Grant in real life, but LinkedIn is where they share deep, insightful pieces that shape my thinking and perspective, as opposed to snippy tweets or Insta-worthy photos. You may be completely unsurprised to hear that I follow hashtags like leadership, workplace success, communication, and podcasting, just to name a few. This ensures that heated and popular conversations on these topics will dominate my feed instead of vanilla job updates. As a business owner, I use this strategy to find insights and articles that I share with clients. I sometimes even bake them into the sessions that I design for them. But it works equally well for an employee of an organization. So spend a few minutes curating your feed. See if you can't quickly spot a nugget of golden insight amongst what the influencers have to say. Bring a new idea to your team and see what shift you might spark. Next, using LinkedIn to learn and share best practices. Following influencers and hashtags is a great passive strategy, but let's talk about something a bit more interactive. LinkedIn groups are a fabulous forum for participating in hot topical conversations. You can join groups based on nearly any affinity you can think of. The school you attended, past employers, your industry, your geography, your interests, and more. Groups can be open, meaning anyone can join, or closed. An administrator may have to approve you. But once you're in a group, it's a great place to start and or participate in a conversation. Maybe you're struggling with a situation at work, and you could use some advice. Maybe you're trying to find the best way to engage with customers in your industry, and you're looking for ideas of what other companies have tried and tested. Maybe you have an inkling about something. Hey, does anyone else think virtual work might be here to stay? And you're curious to see how other people think about that same issue. Pose a question or a challenge to a relevant LinkedIn group to see what others think. Make it a real conversation. And while you're there, be sure to look through existing conversations for opportunities to add value. Do you have an opinion or suggestion to offer on someone else's conundrum? The more generous you are with your thoughts and ideas, the more generosity you'll see in exchange. Next strategy, shop and test your ideas. 13 years ago, I made a big career change, transitioning from operations management into a human resources role for a financial institution. Excited as I was by the switch, I spent my early months feeling a little bit out of my league. I was motivated to impress, but I also lacked confidence in my instincts and ideas. While trying to figure out how to quickly get up to speed, I found myself searching LinkedIn for people in other companies and industries with titles similar to my own, and sending them invitations to connect. As my invitations were accepted, I started following up with a brief note of introduction. My note included a statement that I was relatively new in my job, a list of a few of the projects or initiatives I was working on, nothing confidential, of course, and finally a request to connect for a quick phone chat just to share some best practices. Using this strategy, during my first year on that job, I must have spoken with 30 to 40 people in roles equivalent to mine at other companies. We didn't have an agenda. Instead, we chatted casually about things we were working on, strategies we found successful, what hadn't worked for us, and even questions we were noodling on. It was an amazing way for me to grow my network while also growing my knowledge and idea bank. Sometimes I'd have an idea I wanted to try at work, and I'd use these phone sessions to test them with someone else. I'd say, "Hey, I'm thinking of trying this. Have you done anything similar? Do you have any wisdom to share?" In many cases, they'd say yes and tell me what they thought or knew. And over time, as I accumulated experience, I was able to contribute more to these conversations. It ultimately became one of the most powerful strategies I've used to bump up my own Rockstar status at work. And finally, use LinkedIn to be a brand ambassador. So far, we have touched on some strategies designed to bring things in. Now let's talk about how you might help your company stand out. Putting your company on the map by highlighting its achievements is another great way to be noticed or recognized at work. As you begin to follow the trends and conversations shared by big thinkers in your industry, consider where you can highlight work you or your company are doing that contributes to that conversation. Has a product been launched or an outcome been achieved? Again, nothing confidential. That lends itself to a trending hashtag? Tell that story and be an ambassador for your company's great work. Be sure to tag your company, touting what you're proud to be a part of, and contextualizing it to a current conversation is a great way to stand out within your organization. And I promise, leadership will notice your efforts. Hey, speaking of LinkedIn and Rockstars, have you heard that the Modern Mentor podcast now has its own LinkedIn page? Head over to LinkedIn and search for the Modern Mentor podcast, where you'll find updates on future episodes, quick how-to videos on some of work's biggest challenges, and additional content that will only be available on LinkedIn. Stop by and leave me a comment or question. I'll respond to all of it. You may end up being featured on the show. I'm Rachel Cooke, your Modern Mentor host. I hope you're feeling inspired to lean into LinkedIn. Don't forget to find and follow the Modern Mentor podcast page on LinkedIn. Visit my website at leadabovenoise.com or leave me a voicemail on the Modern Mentor hotline at 201-632-5656, and you may end up on the show. Thank you so much for listening and have a successful week.